Yeah, you guys can go out and smoke pot and do all those crazy things, go to a bar, but me, and many people like me, which I see running around in there, the thrill of the deal. I had an awesome dad who looked at me and said, do what you love. If you can make money in it, do it.
She's the queen of everything that matters, rising high while the doubters scatter, with her name in the wind sharp as daggers. Diane's the queen of everything that matters.
Hi everybody, my name is Dianne Linderman, and this is my podcast called Everything That Matters, also by Dianne Linderman. And what I'm going to do with you all every single time I do a podcast, and I don't know how many times a week I'm going to do it, I'm just going to be the way I am, which is if I feel like doing them, I'm going to do them. If I have something to tell you, I'm going to get on here and share it with you. But mainly, my whole game plan to do my podcast is because I was a nationally syndicated radio talk show host for 15 years. And was syndicated across 30 different states in the country. It did really well. And the reason why is because I talked about everything that matters and because they call me the queen of everything that matters. And I'm going to take that. I love it. So the reason why I feel like this is something your family, kids, husbands, wives, I think everybody will enjoy is because it's real. And because my whole entire probably quest in life, if you want to call it, is I want to see people do what they want to do and that they love. And so many people in this country are put down, degraded. People tell you, oh, you're never going to do that. You'll never do that. You'll never do that. Meanwhile, people spend a fortune on college. And I'm not an anti-college person, but I am an anti-college person. It's like the things you go to college for is something you have to have sort of a passion for. Like if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or other things that take technical skills, yes, by all means, please go to college. If you want to be a doctor, especially. If you want to be a lawyer, I don't know why you'd want to be one of those, except for they do make a lot of money. And they're the only ones that make money, by the way. Yes, I have experience with these things. Anyway, what is so cool about being entrepreneurial, and this is what I'm going to promote, is entrepreneurship, freedom-loving people. I'm a conservative mom, and I know that's going to freak a lot of people out. I really don't care. I've been a conservative mom pretty much the last 30 years. But before that, I was conservative. And grew up with 4 brothers and an amazingly awesome father and mother. And my dad just believed in everything I did, and he helped me believe in myself. And that's what I want to do because I worked with 40 years now. My husband and I have worked with troubled teenagers. And if I could do anything for kids or kids that have traumas that are now adults, is to help you learn not to doubt yourself. Doubt your ideas and dreams and passions. And I always say, don't quit your day job till your other interests start making money to pay for those. And I know that's common sense. And that's what we're going to talk about is common sense as well. And yeah, I love Donald Trump. So if that's something you don't like, click me out right now. Because that guy, he reminds me of my father. And I see a fearlessness in him. And I think our country is fearful. And we're just now on the tip of learning how not to give a damn. And I haven't gave a damn my whole life. And I'm not one of those pushy, bitchy broads. I'm an older mom. I had my first kid when I was 40. And I feel like I have a lot of life left, even though I'm kind of old. And I don't think age has anything to do with ability. I watched this show the other day about this woman she was 103, and what a spry, beautiful soul. She keeps making things, building things, creating things, and she said, Mel, the only thing that's failing on her was her eyesight. And the guy asked her, she says, but I just look for other things to take its place and learn and that I can do without good eyesight. And I thought, what an attitude. What a beautiful attitude. If we could all be like that, would that be amazing? So we get disturbed a little bit and we literally fall off, of our idea train. I'm telling you, I have failed. I have been bankrupt. I have had to deal with that. That is an embarrassing thing to be bankrupt, especially if you're sort of famous for being a really good business person. And guess when that was? When Obama took over our country, I went bankrupt. And it was a store and retail. You got to know what you're doing. But the idea of my business that went bankrupt was so cool. It was called the Moms Club Mercantile. And what it was an 8,000 square foot building that I had little booths in where people could either craft, create, or repurpose their items, or, this one lady, I tell you, the one most inspiring vendor I had was a lady that went around and she bought a piece of furniture like a bed, and then she'd buy this, everything was used. And that's kind of where I got my love of thrift store. My son has a bunch of video of me running in and out of thrift stores. In fact, my best deal I've ever made in my life, as far as I know, is these lamps that I have in here, which I'll have to show you. But they were $15 each. And when I got home, one of my kids that I'm like their grantee, he looked it up and they're worth on sale $400 each. And I'm like, I got two of them for $15 each. If that is not the biggest like thrill of a lifetime, I don't know what is. Yeah, you guys can go out and smoke pot and do all those crazy things, go to a bar, but me and many people like me, which I see running around in there, the thrill of the deal. It's the thrill of the hunt. And I'm going to talk about that a lot because my most fun thing to do, well, not most fun, I have a million things that are fun, but the best thing I would say that I love doing just when I'm spare time is just hitting every thrift store, every yard sale, and looking for that thing that I can put in one of our houses that we have vacation rentals. And it all started many, many, many years ago when I was 16 years old and I bought and sold cars. I loved cars. I'm a car girl. And I would buy old cars and I would bring them home and I would shine them up, make them like beautiful, wax them and clean the chrome. In those days there were chrome. And I would turn around and I'd double, triple, quadruple the amount of money I bought them for. And I built sort of a little car empire and a little old car empire. And I ended up with an old Mercedes. And I'm telling you these stories not to tell you how awesome my life has been, even though I love to hear how awesome people's lives are, but because I feel like anyone can do it. I was 16 years old. And until I did this, I rode a bike. In fact, I built bikes in my garage, really funky ones, and I would sell those. But I say you can, and I'm going to keep making this my main theme, so you can make anything into a business. Anything you love, anything that is fun, anything that is quality. Actually, I don't even know if it needs to be quality, although I have to have a certain standard in my life. But anyway, I bought and sold cars. I had Saabs, Porsches, Mercedes, Volvos. I only stuck to the foreign cars for many years because I had a foreign mechanic friend, an older gentleman that would bring my cars in there I find, and he'd even find some for me. We'd buy them real cheap, and he'd tune them up, make them beautiful. Then I'd bring them home and just, like I said, I would clean the interiors, make them awesome, turn around and sell them. But my favorite car I think I ever bought in my life that was an old 1960 Mercedes. It was a Mercedes diesel because I love diesels. And that diesel was, it was an old green color and it had giant rag top roof. It was like a convertible. It was just the cutest. It looked like a bear. It was a 4-door. And it was a 190 diesel, by the way. And I took that to Earl Scheib, paint your car for $39.95. Here I am, 16 years old, bought this car, took it in there, and guess what? There's a lot of convicts that work in there, and they're all really nice to me. They made my car so beautiful. I mean, I'm sure they did a million times what they would do for the average person because they just thought it was hilarious. Guess what I did? I did the absolute thing you should never do when you buy and sell cars, especially vintage cars. I changed the color. So every one of my cars ended up pastel yellow. And as I grew older and I started to realize that was really bad, but they all sold. Every one of them, they looked gorgeous. So I took my Mercedes in there, and of course, they loved it. It had very little places they had to fix on the body. I turned it yellow and I went and I was just freaking out because it was so gorgeous. And I took it home, and my younger brother, Alan, who is a car guy, very famous car guy now, he took a look at it, and he was only like, I don't know, 9 at the time. And he's like, this is awesome. So that was a surfer chick. So I basically used my awesome car, put the Surf Rex on there. I lived in Ventura, California. And then I found an old Volvo. It was a P1800. It was, I think, a 1962 or 61. It was like a sports car. If you don't know what those are, they're beautiful. Took it, got it yellow. I got a Volvo, turned it yellow. This story could go on because I pretty much turned every single car yellow. And I loved yellow at the time. And I also loved white. So then I started painting them white. But those stories I'm only telling you because I didn't have much money until I was 16. I did babysit a lot. And I did save up money to buy my first Porsche. It was 356A. It was a 1960. And I remember I only paid $2,500 for it. And it ran like a top. They have little tiny Volkswagen engines in them. Painted it yellow. And it was gorgeous. I mean, it was a beautiful car. And of course, I was like, who is this person? And I'm like, I don't know who I am. I'm just trying to fulfill my dreams. And I had an awesome dad who looked at me and said, do what you love. If you can make money in it, do it. And I'll tell you a little story what happened to him, which is so cute. And I'm only telling stories now because got to get you into the mode of where I'm going. So I remember I was 13 years old and I loved horses. Okay. And I volunteered at this place that's called Ponyland in Ventura, California. And I learned all about driving ponies and carts, and I learned about pony rides. And I loved working there. And guess what? I worked for a tuna fish sandwich every day. I worked 8-hour days so I could eat a tuna sandwich. But I loved it so much, that was my reward. And I'll tell you the story a little bit later because I ended up, years later, having my own pony ride. And I loved ponies. I loved horses. I got purebred Welch ponies. But anyway, back to my story. So, what I'm saying to you is that your experiences in life can start very, very young. And you parents have to encourage their kids not to be doctors or lawyers unless that's something they dream of. But I've met so many people that are so disappointed with the fact they spent 4 or 8 years in college to learn something they don't even use. In fact, I was listening to this girl the other day, and she had a zoological degree. She never used it. Would have been a cool thing to do. But she ended up buying and selling products, like old things. And it's like we have really no idea what our lives are going to be. So we rush to what they say. And I always ask my friend who we started a school with, and that's the private school that we started for my kids and my brother's kids. And I would always say to this one woman who was brilliant, and she had a very sad life, but she was academically brilliant without school because she dropped out of school and she was 12 and became the #1 broker in LA, in California, and became very wealthy. And she sort of felt like she had to make sure the kids got a college degree that were going to our private school. She was a partner in our school. And I always thought, no, that is not what I am promoting. I'm promoting hands-on in this school. I want people. So anyway, long story short, we kind of parted ways because I didn't want my kids to go to an academic school. I wanted them to go to a school where they could discover. I wanted to put a greenhouse in the back of the school and let them grow plants and learn about agriculture. But my husband and I did do one thing that was very cool. We actually started a restaurant at the school where the kids ran it. And we even started a brownie company. And that brownie company ended up doing really well. And I let the kids keep the profit. So they would make these brownies. We created the marketing, the packaging, their logos, and we created it. And it was beautiful. It was all the way it was packaged and marketed. And we took them out, and everybody had a basket full. And every day we'd meet after school and make these brownies. And before we knew it, some kids were making $50 a day, and they were 9, 10 years old. See, my dad was like that with us. He was like, you can make money with anything in life. And I keep using this theme of making money, being entrepreneurial, because I believe that is the season that we're in with Donald Trump being in charge of our country. We need more entrepreneurs. We need people that are business owners. We need small business runs our country. And when we had the pandemic, in every bad thing in life, there's a new opportunity. And I'd like to tell you this little story right here, because my husband is the jack of all trades. And we have this beautiful ranch in Texas because we have a beautiful business that's all sort of revolved around animals and ponies and agriculture. And we are the #1 in the country for petting farms and pony rides and agricultural displays and things that teach kids about animals and agriculture and what they're for. But that's what got cut off. In other words, every place that we do business, which is mainly fairs, festival events, and rodeos, they all shut down. And I'm looking, oh my God, how are we going to pay our bills? I looked at my husband like, what are we going to do? Well, guess what I used to do? We had a restaurant, and we had it on a farm, and it was called Country Cottage Cafe and Bakery. And I also had I have another story. In fact, I better write that down because I'll forget to tell you about it. But the neat thing about this is that we took a 5-acre farm. We grew all of our own food. And this was the one that we started before. And so we understood what it takes to be a farmer. And that's a lot of work. And I envy the hardworking farmers and ranchers of this country. And so we learned about farming. We had 5 acres organic. It was all organic. It was in the middle of a really beautiful town called Grants Pass, Oregon. And we just said, well, we're going to start a restaurant here. And it had a little kind of restaurant there already when we bought it. But we did a full-on restaurant. We had outdoor seating. We did weddings. We did, parties. It was amazing. And I just took my simple recipes that I have, and I'm going to have to tell you to go to Amazon. Just Google my name, Dianne Linderman, Dianne Linderman. I have 4 cookbooks there. I have 5. No, I have 4. And then I have this one that just came out, which I was correcting before you guys showed up today. But not only did we learn farming, but we learned how to cook with our things that we grew, which is really unique. I'm not a hippie, but I sort of grew up like a surfer hippie, because when I was younger, it was all about natural foods and, smoothies and all those kinds of things. So I learned a lot about eating. And then my father was a fisherman, and we had a house that had a boat dock that went out into the California Ventura coastline, and he had fresh fish 4 days a week for us. So I got so much awesome opportunities in my life to, really have this whole world. And then we bought a farm in Ojai, California, where we had every kind of fruit tree you can think of. And we sold our oranges, which is 100 orange trees there, all organic. We sold the oranges to a place called the Juice Club, which is a highfalutin juice place in Beverly Hills. They would come all the way out and pick them all up, made fresh squeezed orange juice. Oh my gosh, it was delicious. And so all those experiences in my life has led me down this path of creating with then I met my husband. I was 21. It's a long story. Oh my gosh, there's so much to tell you people. I think that's why I had to write a book. It's because all the experiences of my life have led me to right here, right now. And I get to share those, and I get to teach you, and I get to get you inspired. And I was just, and so anyway, back to the story about the place in Oregon that we grew all of our own food and we had a restaurant. Those things right there is the sort of the ground of where I started. It's like once you have a restaurant and you do everything from scratch and you never really open cans and you make this beautiful, simple, unbelievable. I made sandwiches and potato salad and we had beautiful salads there and we had unbelievable desserts. And those things, I perfected my cooking skills. So this was years ago when I was 23, 24 years old, 25. My husband, he was the one that sort of ran everything and I ran the restaurant. So then I'm talking about the pandemic now. And the reason why I was telling you that story was because I had all those skills. David had all those skills. And during the pandemic, I didn't want to live off the government. I wanted to figure out how we could make it on our own. Well, guess what? We started this amazing restaurant. He built this gorgeous deck and it overlooks both the pastures where all of our animals frolic and hang out, and you can visit them. And so we were like packed every day during the whole pandemic. And the reason why is because it was all open and people were able to come there, and we would not let people wear masks because how can you sit in a restaurant with a mask on? It's all open air. There was nobody was breathing in each other's breath. We had them just, I don't know if I believe all that crap anyway, but we were trying to follow the rules, what they thought were rules. And it's really kind of neat because most people that we had that showed up at our restaurant didn't want to wear a mask. They didn't believe in it. And it's okay. So you could come there and we had homemade soups and I had chicken pot pies. And I mean, in Oregon, I always call it chick food. And in Texas, you do guy food because, people are used to eating like chicken fried steak. And now, so I will have to tell you, I'm going to give you a recipe today. It's super simple. I had the best tasting chicken fried steak and we did not fry it. I used coconut oil to cook with. And I'm going to give you that recipe at the end of our little chat here. And you got to keep it, but you also can go to my website, DianneLinderman.com, and you can also go online in Amazon and just type in my name, Dianne Linderman, and I have 4 cookbooks there. And you can definitely get one of my cookbooks, and one of them has my chicken fried steak and homemade mashed potatoes in it. Oh, to die for. And I don't use sour cream in my mashed potatoes. I use yogurt, and I use the whole Greek yogurt. Just little secrets along the way. I can't miss out on them. Best thing you've ever tried in your life, people. I also use a lot of butter. And I'll tell you about the butter and the fats later because you're like, oh, that's all fattening. No, I want you to look into carnivore. And people are realizing, okay, I'll save that for when my daughter's on. I'm going to bring my daughter on one day and you're going to see she saved her own life eating carnivore. And I have to hand it to you. She has the most unbelievable discipline. And this is a girl that had no discipline. I mean, she was a fantastic cook. She still is. She can't taste the thing, but her food comes out so good. It's crazy. But I want you to hear it from her mouth because it's so interesting, her story about how she found how to save herself with autoimmune sicknesses. And we're not doctors. We're just sharing our experiences. And so fats are your least worry. Carbohydrates are your worst worry. And I'm going to tell you something, it's probably going to freak everybody out. Vegetables are hurting you more than you know it. And I have been a vegetable grower my whole life. I love a salad. But the way my daughter will explain to you that each vegetable has a way to fend off predators. And it puts off a histamine. And it makes people sick. And a lot of people don't realize that they're completely allergic to histamines. And there's a lot of you. So you think you're doing really well. In fact, my friend just told me her mother died of stomach cancer and she practically lived on spinach. And I'm like, what? I could not believe it. I was like, and she was Miss Health Food, but she was a vegetarian. And my daughter bought a giant tomahawk the other day and sat down, barbecued it, and she's a little tiny, tiny person now. Lost 60 pounds, beautiful. Her hair grew, her skin cleared up, everything about her got healthy. Sat down and ate that carnivore, that giant tomahawk. Oh, I know you've seen it all over the internet, but it's the real deal. So the things I tell you about, I have changed a lot of the way that I cook now and I do things. In fact, some of my recipes will reflect that, but I'm getting ready to write a whole nother cookbook based upon things that Alexandra, my daughter, has discovered. For the last 5 years, she's been discovering this stuff, and she found out she's allergic. And I have to tell you people, and a lot of you people know this, that if you had COVID and it left you with autoimmune sicknesses, it can all be healed because she's literally healing herself. And if you got it's even worse, but they are coming out with things that can save you. So please start looking into that stuff. I have a brother that bought into all that BS. And I always worry about him because who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? So you got to be your own doctor. And if we could find doctors, and there are doctors now showing themselves that believe like we do. And, we have to get a hospital now. This way, if I was a person that had a lot of money, I would actually build a hospital for people that thought like this. And they can cure you through your food is medicine. That's what JFK is saying now, RFK, is that food is medicine, and it's true. And I can't wait to see what he's going to do because he's a carnivore too. He's got some crazy stories. I love watching that guy. But the truth is that in the middle of a pandemic, we thrived. And it's like, that's when you become the best you can be, is when you realize that you're in the middle of this pandemic. We have no way of making a living except for helping other people have a day out. So we thought, well, we're going to take this a step further. So not only did we build this amazing restaurant, have this gorgeous deck, we have these big pastures. Our driveway comes up like this. It comes right up into our restaurant, Dianne's Ranch Diner, if you want to go and look at the website. We're closed right now, so don't try to go there, but I'd like to open someday soon. And the problem is that when Biden came in, we could not find employees. And thank God that because I've been working with troubled teenagers for the last 35 years, and many of them are business partners now, we have partnerships. There's at least 12 of us. Maybe actually there's 20 in all. And their kids are all grown up now. And so we could run things with just us, with barely making our mortgage payments and things like that. And so when we started thriving, of course, then we started making enough money so everybody could at least pay their payments on their homes. And, the food business is a hard thing to make it in life. But when you own the property and you have business partners, very few employees because people aren't working. Everybody was getting their welfare. And, I understand. I get it. Some of us did too. The ones that had bigger mortgages, we had to figure a way to make it. But when it was all over, we stopped taking any kind of help because we figured out how to make our own money. And that's how I wanted to. That's how I think it's all designed for. The Social Security money, or whatever, not Social Security money, because we all earn that. But the money that they were giving out to everybody for the pandemic so they could survive, right? I understand, but there are people totally taking advantage of. We all know that. The sad part is many, 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 many Americans saw the truth. I would say everybody I know knew what was right and wrong. We knew what they were doing. We knew that we knew Trump was right and they were wrong. And I congratulate us for not tearing up this country and just being patient, because it all came out. And I think it's the way God really wanted it to do, because he gave Trump 4 more years to figure it all out, to understand even deeper what he knew. It was all perfect timing. I don't know. Life is about timing, people. And I see the timing is godly. And I'm not one bit afraid of the stock market going down. I'm not afraid of, all these things. Gold goes up and it goes down, goes up. You know what I did? When I heard that Elon Musk, his stock was 60% less than it was, I've never bought a stock in my life. I went out and bought Tesla stocks. And then I hear that these people are trying to destroy Elon. Do you think he cares? He doesn't care. He's not afraid of losing money. He'd be a billionaire in a month if he took all his money away. Because the people like that, and that's the attitude we all have to have. He's like, do you think I heard him on an interview one time, and he said, do you think that I care, that I would change the way I am or who I am because I would lose money? And I thought, what a principled person. I want to be like that when I grow up. Money does not motivate me. Fun does. Growing. It should motivate everybody. And I was just actually at lunch with a couple of my business partners, and they have 3 kids. And their kids are all working with us, 21, 19, and 16. 16-year-old's a total entrepreneur. I'm his grantee, which he calls me grantee. And we're like grandparents, auntie, even though we're not their grandparents. We really are their grandparents, my husband and I. My husband taught the oldest one how to weld and he could do anything. He's 21 years old. Actually, he just turned 22. And he could do anything except for get out of his traumas. And that's where he's starting to. It's really hard to show people how the thoughts in your head are literally the things that you think are you talking to you, but they're not. Because the world is full of empty thoughts that get implanted in you from traumas and cruelty. But if you do not hate the people that do you wrong, and you literally forgive them, they can't get inside you. They can't get in your head. They can't hurt you. And I actually I was really chubby when I was very chubby when I was younger. And actually, that's why I ended up being a total entrepreneur. Because I figured, well, I'm probably not going to have a boyfriend. I'm probably not going to, make any real friends, because I don't want to do what they do. I don't want to go to the bars, and I don't want to go do any of that stuff. I wanted to grow. That's when I started. Besides the buying and selling of my cars, I learned to make jewelry, and I became a full-fledged silversmith. I know you guys are like, why don't you keep doing that? I want to get back into it. Because, I learned so much. I had my own jewelry store. It was a little place in the front of a thrift store, but I actually made jewelry, handmade sterling silver jewelry. I did both. I soldered, and I also did a lost cast wax. And it was a really cool thing. And I can tell you a really funny story, because I'm all about stories. And there was this motorcycle club down the street, and they kind of had the Hells Angels vibe. And in those days, I didn't know who the Hells Angels were, and it could have said Hells Angels on there. I wouldn't have known. And I was only 17, and I was sitting behind my little jewelry case that I had, where I had a little place where I sat and made jewelry all day. I had a really nice little clientele of homeless people, young people that didn't have any money, but they still bought jewelry. It was really strange. And then I had a lot of rich people coming in there buying jewelry from a young girl. They thought it was cool. And my jewelry was really kind of cool. I did turquoise and coral and malachite. I did a bunch of beautiful stones, mother of pearl. And, I'd set stones. And it's funny because I don't even wear my own jewelry that I've made. But one day I was sitting behind my little, sitting there making stuff, and all of a sudden this giant man came in with big black leathers on and scary looking beard. And, I learned a lot that day. Don't ever judge a book by their covers. Okay? So he came in, he was looking at my jewelry, and he goes, "Hey, do you make custom belt buckles?" And I'm like, I could. But I was so scared, I was shaking, because I thought he came to rob me. You see, that's what judgment does. I made a judgment on the guy. He came in to really kill me and rob me. He wanted to buy belt buckles from me. I felt so ashamed of myself, people. I was like, how stupid am I? I'm only 17, or actually I think I was 18 by then. So he's like, you can do belt buckles? Can you draw something up for me if I gave you like an idea? And I'm like, I can try. And so he gave me this idea. He wanted an eagle, and he wanted it inlaid in turquoise and coral, red coral. I thought, I probably could do that. He goes, I'll tell you what, you make one, and if I like it, I'm going to have you make 15. And I said, okay. So he paid me for it ahead of time. I only charged in those days, because silver wasn't very expensive, like $120. Nowadays, that buckle's probably worth $500 just in the silver, because I did use. So he gave me this thing, and I drew it up, and he approved it. And I was scared because I kept thinking, what if this isn't good enough? Here's that doubt, right? Here comes the doubt. What if it's not good enough? What if I hate it? What if he, kills me over it? I was still kind of scared of the guy, because he was just a big, massive human being, like all the chains on him. And here I'm this little person behind the counter like, hi, you gonna steal from me? Let me step out of the way. But anyway, he came back and approved the little drawing that he did. And he goes, you're not that good of an artist, are you? And I'm like, no, but I'm a good jewelry maker. So if you want to change something, do it now. And so he just did a little sharper edges. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. So I go, come back in a week and we'll look at it. So not only did he come back, but his 10 of his big, giant, scary buddies came back. And so I showed it to him. I pulled it out, had velvet, put it on there, and I turned it over, and they all went, oh, I love it. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy you do. He goes, I'll take all the rest. Remember, you're going to make like 15 for me. And I'm like, yes, sir. It might take me 2 or 3 weeks. And he goes, well, if you can do it that quick, that's wonderful. He pulled out a wad of money. I am not kidding. That big. He just unpeeled the hundreds. I don't know what they did for that money. I don't want to know. But they were honorable, and they were adorable in their own way. And I even got asked out by the English one. And he was a big, scary looking dude, but he had an English accent. So does my dad. So he says, oh, you think your father would let you go out with me? And I'm like, hell no. My dad's got a big shotgun. And I told him, he just laughed. He thought it was hilarious. I go, yeah, I got 4 brothers, and they probably don't care, but they probably would care. I'm only 18 and he was like 30. So anyway, I just wanted to do business. I don't want to date a giant, scary guy, even though he's probably a very sweet human being. They were all very sweet, to be honest with you. So anyway, long story short, 3 weeks went by. They all came in, all of them. And I had them all ready, and I had them all wrapped in velvet, each one, and I unwrapped them. And they're freaking out, and they're loving them, and I'm so relieved. I feel like I probably lost 20 pounds worrying about it. They all installed them on their belts. And then the guy paid me for all of them, big giant wad of money. And I had, at the time, a little motor scooter. It was a Honda 90 step-through, very English looking, the big basket, almost kind of a hippie. And he said, hey, is that your little rig out there? And I'm like, yeah, I drive it to work every day. And he goes, well, let me tell you something. If anybody ever messes with you, call me. Gave me his private phone number. And I'm like, thank you. And I just found out that I would drive by their, every day if I could just go one more street down, I'd drive by their motorcycle place where they sell motorcycles and Harleys and all that. And I go, beep, beep. And they all like, hey, little jewelry girl. And I have to tell you, my lesson from that was don't ever judge people. I don't care how scary they are. I mean, yeah, some of those people are scary, and there's going to be scary people. That's why you learn how to defend yourself and learn how to have a gun. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I don't care. I think everybody on this earth, in America, actually in America, that should learn how to handle a weapon. I've been shooting since I was a kid. My dad took us out. He taught us all the safety, and that's what you need to do. That's how you keep your kids safe with guns in the house, by the way. You don't just hide them. When they find them, they're curious. But if you take them out and show them the power that guns have, and that, don't play with these. This is not something you ever play with, and watch what it will do. I can't say that my 4 brothers and I ever were tempted, ever touch, ever, a gun unless we were out going to the range, and everything had to be handled right, held properly. My dad was very big on safety. He also taught us how to do archery. I was actually really good at that when I was a kid. But the point is, all the things we're afraid of are sometimes the very things that can save you. And everything in life that helps create confidence is really the most important thing you can teach your kids. Because confidence is, you're nothing without confidence. And I don't mean fake confidence. I mean real confidence. And every experience that you have in life is to learn to be a confident soul, having wisdom and learning to be intuitive and not doubt your intuitive side. And as parents, our job, first of all, is to have that intuitive side. But it's super important that you allow your children to sometimes get hurt. Be watchful over them. And my son used to be like a wild man. And so did my daughter. And I used to be like the old Jewish mother, right? Oh my God, he's hurt. My husband was completely the opposite. Thank God. He would take him up on a roof when he was 2. He'd tie a rope to him. But my son learned to be sure-footed. And my daughter, she's like, she breaks horses. So do I need to say more? Anyway, make sure you all subscribe, like, follow, and even share, okay? That's really important because this podcast, I would like to get out there. I know everybody wants to get their podcasts out there, but I think there's something here for people. I don't have to do this. I do it because I've had such an awesome opportunity in my life. And yes, I've failed many times. But it's what you do with that failure that makes or breaks you. And so my next show, I'll be talking probably about that. But make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. And it's Dianne Linderman, or it's at Everything That Matters. That's sort of my handle. Also, I have a website, diannelinderman.com, where you can listen to about 400 of my old shows from my past. And when I listen to them, it sounds like I'm talking about it right now. And this was like 10, 15 years ago. So the stuff I'm talking, or actually it's more like 9 years ago, because I remember talking about Trump with some of them when the first time he was up there. I was on nationally syndicated at that time. So thank you all very much for listening. And by the way, you can go to Amazon and you can just put in my name. You'll find my 4 cookbooks. You'll love them. I think they're only $15. So they're amazing. I mean, I say that because everything is so simple and it's healthy-ish. I'm not going to turn into a bunch of hippies, but I do use really healthy ingredients. And I know this is a giant commercial for myself, and I'm a ruthless marketer, but I only like to market things I believe in. And I believe in myself, and I believe in my cookbook. And this one right here, if you're interested, just came out. And if you want to email me at diannelinderman.com, I will make sure you get one of these, because I haven't figured out, this is not through Amazon, because they're all color, and you have to see how beautiful this book is. It's got all kinds of beautiful pictures and things that my daughter have the art that she's created. And it's very Texas, by the way. And by the way, Texans do love chicken fried steak, and I'm going to give you that. I forgot I was going to give you that recipe. By the way, this is so quick. I want you all to get a piece of paper. You can go to my website, Dianne at Everything That Matters, or I'm sorry, you can go to diannelinderman.com. I made it super simple. So we're going to make chicken fried steak, right? You know what chicken fried steak looks like in the store? Do you know they're like cutlets that they've taken a piece of meat and they've literally pounded it till it's very tender? That's what I'm talking about. There's different names for them in different states. But here's what I do. And I used to be anti-white flour, and I still kind of am. But you take whole wheat pastry flour, and you wash your meat, garlic salt, both sides. Take your meat, plop it into the flour, turn it over, make sure it's nicely packed. You don't need to dip it in anything. You don't need egg. And I use coconut oil, and I get the best coconut oil from Costco, by the way. It's organic, and don't ever use any coconut oil that is not organic, because then it's hydrogenated. We just want, coconut oil is actually super good for you. Look it up, Google it. Anyway, I love their coconut oil. It comes in a big container, and I mean, I go through at least one a month. Not that we fry much, but I use it if I'm making eggs. I mean, we can use butter too. Butter's very good for you. Try to stay organic if you can with everything. I mean, I'm just kind of becoming a complete believer in the organic thing, even though I have been for so many years. And it's very hard to find that, but it's starting to get easier. Anyway, you fry it on one side, and when you see a little juices, the red bloody juices coming out of it, turn it. It gets real crispy. And you only need to turn it once, and you get it real crispy on the other side. That's it. Put a little pepper on it. And I'm going to tell you something. I've had guys that are full-on chicken fried steak people that said that's the best chicken fried steak they've ever had. And it's not fully deep fried, or even though those are good, it doesn't have a crust like that. It has a very simple crust on it that's crispy. That sounds good. And then have it with some homemade mashed potatoes. Quickly, I'll give you that recipe too if you have a pencil and a piece of paper, or you can go to DianneLinderman.com. So simple. Boil up potatoes, whatever kind you like. I like red potatoes, but I'm starting to find out red potatoes have things like osculates in them and all these other things that my daughter's teaching me about. But you skin them if you want. I never did before, but I am starting to now. They say that the health food is in the skins, but now we're finding out it isn't. Try to do organic potatoes. Anyway, boil them up till you literally almost are falling apart, but don't let them be that to the point where they are falling apart. And then I take a slab of butter, and I take Greek yogurt, whole Greek yogurt, throw it in there. And you know what? I don't even know what the recipe is right now, because you can just imagine what you need. We're going to reimagine mashed potatoes. Anyway, take your masher, garlic, salt, and pepper, squish that up. And I try not to ever blend it, because sometimes you can over blend mashed potatoes and it gets rubbery, especially the red ones. I got to tell you something. I just told you how to make the best, simplest, quickest meal. Nothing I make takes more than about 15 minutes. So make sure you join us for all my podcasts, and go to the YouTube channel at Dianne Linderman, or Everything That Matters. Thank you so much for listening.